Okay, let's talk about Atomic Habits. I mean, this book has been an absolute phenomenon, right? It's sold millions of copies, it's been on bestseller lists forever. But the big question is, does the advice actually hold up under a microscope? In this explainer, we're going to dig into the psychology behind all that hype. I mean, we've all been there, haven't we? You get super motivated, you start a new gym routine, or a diet, or you promise yourself you're going to read more, and then, a few weeks later, poof, you're right back where you started. It's so frustrating, but what if the problem isn't you? What if it's not about your willpower at all, but about your whole approach to begin with? So, to really get to the bottom of this, we're actually using a critical review from the International Journal of Social Impact as our guide. Think of it as putting the book under a psychological microscope. This is going to help us figure out not just what makes the book so popular and effective, but also where its advice might not quite hit the mark. At its core, the promise of Atomic Habits is, well, it's pretty simple, but also really profound. It's basically saying, forget about making these huge, dramatic changes. Forget the grand gestures. Real, lasting change, it comes from the compounding power of tiny, almost unnoticeable improvements. And this whole idea, this is where the magic of Atomic Habits really kicks in. The author James Clear explains that a seemingly tiny 1% improvement each day doesn't just add up. Nope, it compounds. Think about that. Over a whole year, that tiny daily effort can lead to a mind-blowing 3,700% increase in your abilities. It's an absolute game changer. Okay, now this next idea is so important. The book says winners and losers have the same goals. And when you stop and think about it, it's true, right? In any race, every single person has the goal to win. So if everyone has the same goal, the goal itself can't be what separates the winner from everyone else. So what is the real difference maker? And the book's answer is kind of radical. It says, it's not about your goals, it's all about your systems. See, goals are the destination, the result you want. But your systems, that's the process, the vehicle that actually gets you there. And what Atomic Habits argues is that if you really want to win, you have to focus on the system. You have to fall in love with the process, not just dream about the finish line. So, how do you build these powerful systems? Well, this is where James Clear gives us this simple, but honestly brilliant operating manual. It's a four-part framework he calls the 4 laws of behavior change, designed for creating good habits and, just as importantly, breaking bad ones. All right, so let's crack open this manual, shall we? We're going to deconstruct these 4 laws and see exactly how they work. Okay, law number 1, make it obvious. This is all about making the cues for your good habits totally impossible to ignore. You know, that little trigger that kicks the whole habit into gear. So, for example, you want to play guitar more? Don't just leave it in the case hoping you'll remember. No, you take it out and you put it on a stand right in the middle of your living room. Make it obvious. And listen, this isn't just some clever life hack. This is based on a real, proven psychological principle called an implementation intention. By making a super specific plan, you know, that if X happens, then I will do Y format, like after I pour my morning coffee, I will meditate for 1 minute, you are literally pre-programming your brain to act. You're taking all the guesswork and in-the-moment decision-making out of the equation, which makes the habit feel almost automatic. And there are a couple of really great practical ways to do this. First, you've got habit stacking. This is where you piggyback a new habit onto one you already do. So right after you brush your teeth, you read 1 page of a book. Simple. Then there's environment design. This is all about tweaking your surroundings to nudge you in the right direction. You want to run in the morning? Lay out your running clothes the night before. It's all about making the right choice, the obvious, easy choice. All right, on to law number 2, make it attractive. This one tackles that powerful force of craving. Let's be real, the more attractive a habit is, the more likely we are to actually do it. So the big question is, how do we make the good habits more appealing? Well, the book offers 2 really clever strategies for this. The first is something called the pre-Mac principle. This is basically the you have to eat your vegetables before you get dessert rule. You do the thing you need to do, and then you get to do the thing you want to do. The second strategy is temptation bundling. This is where you do 2 things at the same time. You pair an action you want to do with an action you need to do. Like you only let yourself listen to your favorite podcast while you're at the gym. It's such a brilliant way to make a tough habit feel like a treat. Okay, law number 3, make it easy. This one is all about reducing friction. I mean, our brains are basically hardwired to be lazy, to follow the path of least resistance. So it just makes sense. The less effort a good habit takes, the more likely you are to actually do it. And a really brilliant way to put this into practice is with the 2-minute rule. The idea is simple. You take whatever new habit you want to build and you scale it down so it takes less than 2 minutes to do. So read before bed becomes read 1 page. Do 30 minutes of yoga becomes take out my yoga mat. The goal here isn't to get results right away. It's to make it so ridiculously easy to start that you can't possibly say no. Because once you master the art of just showing up, momentum takes over. And now for the final law. And honestly, this might be the most important one. Make it satisfying. Our brains are basically reward-seeking machines. If a behavior isn't followed by some kind of reward, some little hit of satisfaction, we have almost no reason to do it again. And this goes way back to the classic psychology of B.F. Skinner and his theory of operant conditioning. It's pretty straightforward. When a behavior is followed by a satisfying reward, we're more likely to repeat it. That's why even a small, immediate reward can be so incredibly powerful. Think about just putting a big check mark on a calendar after a workout. It sounds silly, but that simple act gives your brain that little hit of satisfaction it needs to lock in the habit for next time. So there you have it, the 4 laws of atomic habits. It's a really compelling system, right? But as the academic review we're looking at points out, just because a framework is powerful doesn't mean it's perfect. So now let's switch gears and take a critical look at some of the book's potential weaknesses. Now, to be clear, the review gives the book a ton of credit. It praises the simple, clear writing, the super actionable framework of the 4 laws, and how it brilliantly boils down complex science into stuff you can actually use every day. But it also raises some really important concerns. The main one, the book's almost relentless focus on individual responsibility. And this, the review argues, is both its greatest strength and maybe its biggest weakness. And this really gets to the core tension of the book, doesn't it? I mean, Atomic Habits is built on this really empowering idea that you are in control, that you can change your life by changing your habits, which is great. But what about all the bigger forces at play? What about the systemic things that shape our lives? The economic, social, and cultural factors that can make it so much harder for some people to build good habits than for others. The review makes a powerful point here. Designing the perfect morning routine is fantastic if you have a stable job and a supportive environment. But what if you're struggling with poverty, or mental health challenges, or socioeconomic barriers? The framework suddenly becomes a lot less relevant. The review basically suggests that the book's advice, while awesome, might not be a one-size-fits-all solution, especially when you consider different cultural contexts, like collectivist societies where community goals can outweigh individual ones. So where does that leave us? What's the final takeaway on Atomic Habits? Is it this life-changing masterpiece? Or is it a kind of flawed, one-size-fits-all self-help guide? Well, in the end, the review concludes that even with its limitations, Atomic Habits still offers a really valuable message. The core idea that meaningful change is a product of these small, incremental improvements, that is a powerful and timeless truth. The key, it seems, is to remember that while our individual habits and systems matter a whole lot, they aren't the only things that matter. And that leaves us with a really big question to chew on. Is meaningful change about the personal systems we build for ourselves, or is it about the larger societal designs that we all need to work on? Where should we really be focusing our energy? The answer is probably a little bit of both. And that, I think, is a conversation that's absolutely worth having.